Okay, so welcome everyone to today's seminar workshop. Um, we are a week away from school starting back, and it's going to look a lot different this year. And so we at the YWCA are committed to helping families out there in the community get ready and prepare the best you can for this new school year. And we are delighted to be partnering with the Partnership for Children of Guilford County and with the Healthy Relationships Initiative. And we're especially thrilled to have Erika Dye, founder of Dyenamic Instruction and Consulting, to be here with us as our speaker. Looking forward to it. The YWCA is here in High Point, and we are dedicated to eliminating racism and empowering women and promoting peace, justice, dignity, and freedom for all. We have several different core programs that feed into this, including the Women's Resource Center, which is hosting this series of workshops. We have Latino Family Center, Adolescent Parenting Program, of course, Aquatics and Wellness and Youth Services. And so we invite you guys to check us out. Our Facebook page is there. You can see it on the slides. And if you have any questions, feel free to give a call. And I would love to tell you more about the YWCA. But right now, I'm going to hand it over to Lamisha. And she is, and then she will introduce our guest speaker for the day. But thank you. And I think it's going to be a great topic, and I am excited. Lamisha?
Thank you, Alice. We are so very excited to continue this partnership along with your organization, High Point YWCA, doing such great work. In addition to the Healthy Relationships Initiative, of which we've been working with for several years now, including Miss Erika Dye. We are excited to have her here today, representing Dyenamic Instruction and Consulting. We're excited to have her as our guest speaker. And on behalf of the Partnership for Children of Guilford County, we're so excited to have all of you, our viewers, watching with us today as you continue to join with us as we continue to try to provide outreach opportunities for you, even if we have to do it virtual for a little while. We're just excited to have you. As you know, the Partnership for Children is one of 75 partnerships in the state of North Carolina providing services to children who are aged birth to 5 and their families, getting them ready for kindergarten, making sure that they have all of the materials and items that they need and all of the skills that they need to be ready for kindergarten and be successful in life. So we are so glad to be here and so thankful for all of you. We are very grateful for this Power Up for Back to School series. As you know, this is a 3-part series. So we're glad you're here today, and we hope you'll come back with us next Monday, the 17th, same time at 12 noon, and then also joining us back on Monday, August 24th at 12 noon. So again, we're so grateful to have you. We're so grateful for Miss Erika Dye, and we're going to turn it over to her to talk to us today about healthy transitions from summer mode to school mode as we get ready to back to school. Erika?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. So excited to be here. I just want to come and share a little bit of information with everyone about this transition from summer to school. Now, this transition is different than any other transition that we've ever experienced in our lifetime, most of us. So I thought that there would be a few tips that I could share with you to make it a little bit easier. As you heard, I am the founder of Dyenamic Instruction and Consulting. What we do is we provide tutorial services, test prep, and a few other things to local students, not just here in Guilford County, but also anywhere in North Carolina. They are face-to-face and virtual, but since everything's been going on, it has been virtual. So if you would like more information, you can get that at the end of the presentation. But just so happy to be here. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box if you're on Facebook, and we will address them at some given times during the presentation. Next slide, please. So first, just want to talk to you about what we know right now. We know that things are changing day to day, sometimes hour to hour. I did not tell you that I have been in education for over a decade. And one of the things that I took from college, probably the most important thing, was to be flexible. If you are in education, you have to be flexible because no 2 classes are going to be the same. No 2 students are going to be the same. So flexibility is what is most important. And so as we are working through this time of virtual instruction for the first 9 weeks, we have to remember to be flexible within everything that we're doing. So as I said, the first 9 weeks are going to be virtual. School starts on Monday, the 17th. The first day of virtual instruction for K through 12 is Monday, August the 17th. Therapy sessions are available for those with special needs. I think that's something that's key because there are so many students who have IEPs and 504s, and parents are concerned and wondering, how are my kids still going to get services? Just want you to know that teachers, principals, counselors, social workers, they are all working hard, have been working hard this whole summer to prepare for this moment. Kids, if there are therapy sessions that need to be taken, if it can't be done virtually, it will be done face-to-face, one-on-one. So those are things that you can ask your school in particular if you have direct questions, so that you will know what it will look like for your specific child. But all children will receive the services in which they need from Guilford County Schools. Tuesday, September the 8th is a key day. Live online instruction, virtual small group sessions, and individual check-ins with students and guardians will begin this day. As we start out, there will be pre-recorded lessons for every student in Guilford County, K through 12, that teachers have been working on over the summer to prepare. And those will be the lessons that will be completed the first couple weeks. After that, there will be live online instruction that your students will be gaining. Now, what that looks like will be different from school to school and grade level to grade level, but that information will be coming out from your individual schools as they set it into place. But it's important to remember that you will have that live online instruction starting September 8th. Now, September the 15th is key. That is your deadline for enrolling your child into virtual academies. There are several different schools. So if you want your child to be strictly online the whole entire school year, regardless of what the decision is, after Tuesday, October 20th, then you need to go on and fill out that application so that they can be enrolled into the virtual academy. Now, what is a virtual academy? What does it look like? How is it different from the school that my kid would be attending if they go back face-to-face on an A-Day, B-Day, or A-Week, B-Week? Well, virtual academy is 100% online. Your kid will have a teacher or multiple teachers, depending upon if they're in middle school or high school. And they will also have a principal. It's completely separate from the school that they would have attended. There are principals, counselors, so they have their own everything, whatever you could think of, but it's done virtually. And so they will meet with their teachers. There'll be certain times that they have classes, but all instruction will be online. If you want more information, that can be found on the Guilford County Schools website. But do not forget that deadline, because it's already been extended once. And so I don't know if they would extend it again. So just remember, September 15th, put it in your phone, set a reminder. If you're thinking about it, if you want more information, please reach out. If you need to know who to reach out to me, you can contact who to reach out to. You can contact me and I can connect you with the correct resources. And then last but not least is that date of Tuesday, October 20th. As of right now, that is when schools will reopen pending the results of the COVID-19 public health data review. Now, I know you see here, you see 10-day count. Now, this goes in with virtual academies and whatever school your kid, maybe their homeschool. Your homeschool is whatever school you're zoned for, would depend upon your address. So 10-day count is typically when the first 10 days of school, does not count Labor Day, because that's usually one of the first 2 weeks of school. It does not count any holidays, but the first 10 days that the school building opens, there are the rosters that we take is not online and fancy, you know, but it is on paper and pencil. And if a kid is sitting in the classroom, then we count them as present. If the kid never shows up in the classroom, then they are not counted in that 10-day mark. Now, what's important is after those 10 days, the school goes and reevaluates how many kids they have, because there's always a projected number of students who are supposed to attend a school based upon birthdays, who lives in the neighborhood, and those types of things. Well, if those kids aren't there sitting in the seats, then we may lose teachers within the school system. So sometimes they're moved to other schools who may have an influx of students. And then sometimes, you know, they may have to find another job. But it's important to remember the 10-day count, because if you pull your child out of their home school and enroll them into virtual school, one, they have to stay the whole semester. That is the key. If you enroll them, they have to stay the entire first semester. You cannot pull them out after that, before that. They have to stay enrolled. Then they could return back to their home school. So everything is done on semester basis. So that is important to remember. Once they're there until the end of a semester. So that is just 10-day count. Remember, if you have any questions, once again, please ask the questions that you have, because if you don't ask, you won't know, and you may end up making a decision that you didn't want to necessarily make. The information is out there, and yes, as I stated before, you have to be flexible and work with everyone in the education arena right now, because things are changing from day to day, but ask so that you know. Are there any questions right now?
We do have a quick question. What suggestions do you have for how parents can talk about all of the key dates and changes that will be happening with their children, especially younger children who may be confused by so many changes?
That's a good question. My husband and I have 3 daughters, one going to kindergarten, one going to 3rd grade, and the other one is going to middle school, 6th grade. So it's been, the conversations have been ranging from pre-K last year to a 5th grader who understands what's going on, can watch the news, gets it, just understands. Our 3rd grader, same way, but then you have a kid who was in pre-K, and then all of a sudden they were taken out and never went back to be with their friends and their teachers. And this was their first experience within the educational system. So the best thing to do is sit them down. If you have different age groups like we do, sit them down one-on-one. Ask them how they're feeling first. How are you feeling? Do you want to go back to school? Do you want to stay at home? And then let them know, if you haven't already, hey, the first 9 weeks are going to be virtual, but you're going to get to meet your teacher. All schools are having open houses. They're virtual. And that information will come out, but there'll be virtual open houses, just like the regular open house is just done through whatever app the school system decides to use. So let them know you will get to meet your teacher. You will have those times where you get to see them and interact with them. But right now, because that's what's deemed as the safest way, we're going to be doing it at home, just like we were at the end of the school year, if they were already in the school system. And then if they come with questions, well, what is it going to look like after October 20th? Let them know honestly, right now, this is what we have in place, but we don't know what it's going to look like. They have to reevaluate. They have to look at what's going on with the cases, and then say, ask them, how are they feeling again? After you give them this information, ask them how they're feeling and let them express that. That's a big part of elementary, especially pre-K, is social and emotional learning. And I do have to give kudos to our daughter's pre-K teachers, because it was within every lesson, social and emotional learning every single day. So that is a really big part of, especially our younger kids, asking them how they're feeling, why they're feeling that way, so that you can get to the bottom of it and help them understand what's going on right now, because there are many adults who don't understand what's going on, and they're having these feelings of anxiety, panic attacks and things like that. And it's not just isolated for adults. Kids go through the same things. So you want to go on and combat that by having these conversations with them that may be hard conversations that you've never had with your children before, but it's better to have them up front and you answer the questions and have them ask you questions versus someone else and they give them information that you don't want them to necessarily have.
Those are good tips, because so it's about checking in with the children, making sure they understand where they are, and checking in on their feelings too, because they're like the question was saying, the children may be feeling confused. Parents are, like you said, are anxious. So checking in with them and letting them know that everything, we're trying to make sure we're keeping you safe. So it's all about safety and making sure that they're healthy and whole.
Yes. Next slide, please. Now, the next big piece is communication. No matter what you're doing, no matter where you're at, communication is so important. So what is parent, student, and teacher communication going to look like? If you remember how school ended, it will be very similar to that. Now, some teachers prefer to use email, and that's the prime way of communicating with them. Some use Canvas. Some use text messages. They may have a Google Voice phone number set up, or they may give you their personal cell phone number. Some use the Remind app, and that's a way of communicating back and forth through just signing up. The teacher gives you a code. You can communicate with them, text them, anytime. They typically set office hours, but even if you get that little pop up that says this is not Miss such and such's or Mr. such and such's office hours, then you can go through and you can still send that message and it'll go through to them. And when they get it, they can respond. And then the last way, especially for high school, I currently teach high school, is having office hours. Set office hours every day or every other day where students and parents can reach out to you. Just going back to emails, it's always important, if you email a teacher or counselor or principal, make sure that your subject line is something that's going to stick out, because getting 100 emails a day, and when this all started, honestly, I was probably getting about 50 to 100 emails a day with different updates and reminders and meetings and things like that. You need to have a subject line that's going to stick out. But the great thing about Canvas is when you message a teacher in Canvas, it goes to their Canvas inbox and it also goes to their emails. So it's in two locations. So let's say it's missed in one place, then it can be seen in the other place. Text messages, once again, that's going straight to someone's phone. So typically they're going to look at their phones. But I would definitely say, for me personally, as an educator, email works great. I had some students who wanted to email me, and they have access to our email addresses, so they could email back and forth. Even our third grade daughter and our fifth grade daughter, or going to sixth grade now, they would email their teachers. Once we showed them what to do, they would email their teachers questions and they would respond to them. So this is something we have to think about, the positives in things, everything that goes on. So many times we look at negatives, COVID-19, negativity. We have to look at the positives. Kids have always known, the last decade, how to use technology for the most part. But now it was how to get on YouTube and play games and things like that in the past. But now it's actually forcing them to use email, something that's kind of dated for the generation coming up now. But now they have to actually know how to formulate emails, how to have a signature so that you know who it's from, how to have an email address that is appropriate. All these are things that are coming out of COVID-19 that kids are being taught that they weren't being taught before, especially in middle and high school. So I always try to hone in on the positives in every situation. And these are positive things that we can pull from, especially when it comes to parent, student, and teacher communication. Now, next up here, we have student workspace. Now, this is a biggie. I've seen so many posts on social media. What is your classroom going to look like? Or, what? And I laugh because they're like, classroom. And I'm like, the kids are at home. You can't treat your home like a classroom per se, because it's still their home and their personal space. Or what does your child's workspace look like? And people post pictures, and then some say, well, mine doesn't look like that. And you can kind of repost and get a feeling and an emotion from it. The biggest thing is having a designated area to complete assignments free from distractions. So whatever your work schedule is for your child or children, it needs to be free from distraction. No cell phone, no TV, no tablet, no other younger siblings running around playing. It should be a place where they can sit down, do their work. It could be at the kitchen table. It could be a desk and a chair set up in their room. It's going to look different from everyone, but the biggest part is consistency. They shouldn't be sitting one day on the couch completing assignments, and then the next day in their room, and then the next day at the kitchen table. Because think about it, every single day they go to school typically, and they're sitting in their desk. They may get up and roam around the classrooms to complete different activities, but there's structure. And so I think the biggest thing that we need to look at is, what is the structure of the student workspace? how is the activity that they are completing for their assignment set up? And if they do need to get up and move around to complete the assignment, have a designated space for that as well. Because if not, it can get chaotic. And from that chaos, if you're staying at home with your children, there can come a stream of emotions, which we'll talk about in the next couple weeks, about how to deal with emotional things that are going on right now. So just make sure that that student workspace is designated, and if it needs to rotate or change, that's fine, but let your child know. This goes back to having the conversation and communicating with them, because right now there's a lot going on that they may not understand. So ask them what works best for you. Do you work best in the evening? Do you work best in the morning? Or those types of things, so that you can create that environment that is conducive for learning for them. Next slide, please.
Erica, we have a quick question.
Okay.
If we have a parent that's watching and they say, they're not getting enough information, or they, haven't heard a lot of the information you're talking about, like dates and things like that, how should they address that? Should they reach out to the principal to find out more information, the teacher? Who should they contact?
That is a really good question. I have spoken with people who are within Guilford County schools. I've spoken to people who go to charter schools within our county, and there's not a lot of information that's been disseminated right now. However, the dates that I gave you, they are all located on the Guilford County Schools website. All that information, you can go there. There's actually a tab that talks about remote learning. You click on it and it'll direct you to whatever you may be looking for. There's calendars. There are questions that a lot of parents have had, and they've just composed the document. And so if you have certain questions, that's a great place to start. However, if you don't know who your child's teacher is, for example, and I will say we don't know who our daughter's teachers are as of right now. But we were told that that information would be sent out at the end of last week. So of course, if it was sent out on Friday, give it to, I'll say, tomorrow. And if you still don't have the information, just simply call your child's school and say, hi, my name is Miss Erika Dye, and my children go here, and I want to know, who their teacher is. And I'm sure they can provide that information for you. However, if they can't, just ask them who you would need to speak with in order to get that information. Be consistent and persistent. Don't give up. If you don't get the answer, say, okay, thank you. Wait a couple hours and call back again, because it is Monday today. School starts next week, a week from today. So you want to know those things so that you can once again bring an ease to the emotions that your child may be feeling or having. And also another thing is, there are open houses that are starting to take place this week. So if you haven't gotten that information, I would definitely say call your child's school so that you can get that information so that you don't miss it. But I do know that the goal is to record every open house that is had so that it can be placed on Canvas for parents who are not able to attend the virtual open houses because they may be working or not able to sign in at that given moment. So they're trying to record those open houses so that they can be posted on Canvas for later review.
Okay, so if they haven't gotten information about the open houses, they definitely want to call the school to find that out, and then other information is also posted on the GCS website.
And then you could also try your actual school website, your child's school website, because some of that information for the particular school may already be there.
Okay.
Next slide, please. All right, so here is a biggie. This is a recommended daily schedule for homeschool or virtual learning. I have seen so many posts where people are creating a whole school day for their child. Now, this information right here came from many studies put together looking at the trends within homeschooling. So it goes through, it gives you grade levels, but we'll just talk through a couple of them. Okay. So the first one is pre-K. So the minimum they should be working is 20 minutes a day. The maximum is 60 minutes a day. Now this recommended attention or length of sustained attention is important because as you see, as you look down the list, it grows, it gets bigger. Okay, so if you have a child who is in pre-K, you should know that you're going to be able to keep their attention for 3 to 5 minutes on average. Now, they may have a couple assignments that they need to do, so you may have to break that 20 to 60 minutes down into different sessions, depending upon what it is that they have to do so that they're keeping their attention on the assignment. For example, they may have to write or trace their letters. If they're writing or tracing letters, that's probably going to take them a good 3 to 5 minutes to look at the pre-recorded video that their teacher has sent. And then they may look at it twice, and then they're going to start practicing that letter. Now, once they finish that, they may take a brain break. That's what I like to call it. They take that brain break, and then maybe 30 minutes later, they may complete another assignment, which may be a read aloud, and they may have a couple questions to answer. But the 3 to 5 minutes is that attention span where you're going to get the most from them. And then after that, they're kind of going to dwindle, or their attention span is going to go down, and you may see them looking off into space, and you know, okay, let's bring it back in, let's take a break, and then move on to the next thing. Kindergarten, the minimum is 30 minutes a day, the maximum is 90 minutes a day, and their span is the same, 3 to 5 minutes for attention. Now, first and second grade is when that attention span goes up to your 5 to 10 minutes, but you see the minimum went up from 30 minutes to 45 minutes because as they're progressing within the educational realm, their assignments are going to become a little bit longer, a little bit harder, and it may take them a little bit longer depending upon what they're learning. Now, for our 3rd to 5th graders, it's 60 minutes a day for a minimum and 120 minutes a day for a max. Now, the majority of the time, I say that max is geared more towards your 5th graders because now they have 4 different subjects which they are learning, and most of the schools have 4 different teachers, and so now they're going to be actually looking at having 4 different teachers who require 4 different things from me, and then their recommended attention span is 10 to 15 minutes. Now, 6th to 8th grade, that's typical middle school. For class, if you're actually going through classes, it's 15 minutes a day. The total, though, should be 90 minutes a day. That is the minimum. Now, for your max, if they're having class or you have it set up for classes and you're breaking it up, then it should be 30 minutes a day, but no longer than 180 minutes a day. So that would be, you say 180 divided by 30, that's 6 classes. And so if your child has 6 classes in middle school, which is on average, then that's what it would look like. But still, they're not only spending 180 minutes a day doing that. They're not spending a whole school day completing their work. And then their attention span is usually 1 subject area or class a day. Once they complete their math work, they may take a break, 15 to 20 minutes, and then come back and do reading or science, whatever, however they break it up or you guys decide to break it up. Now, for our high schoolers, class 20 minutes a day for a minimum. And then for a maximum minimum, I'm sorry, we had a question pop up here. So the total for that would be 120 minutes a day. Now, the maximum is 45 minutes a day, and that total would be 270 minutes per day with that same sustained attention span of 1 subject area per class. The biggest thing that I want you to take away from this chart, pull away whatever grade level your child may be in, but the biggest takeaway is they're not going to be sitting down in their home from 7:45 until 2:45 when they typically get out of school. Creating recess and those types of things, that is amazing, that is phenomenal. But if you want to get the most from your child, the best thing to do is chunk it, which is breaking it up into chunks, not expecting them to sit for 4 and 5 hours a day and complete work like they are in school. Because even in school, you have to remember, if you go sit in your child's classroom, they have their restroom breaks, they have centers for elementary school where they get to go play, or they have electives when they're in middle school and high school where they're either cooking, they may be learning how to build a car or break apart a car. If they're in high school, they're learning home skill, skills that they can take with them, not just within the classroom setting. So all those are things that we need to take into account when we're looking at the schedule that we create for our children every day during this time. And I'll stop now if there are any questions.
We did have a question about, and this was really good, by the way, the recommended daily schedule. The question is, if it's taking my child a lot longer than these times to do their work, what should I do? That's the first question. And then secondly, should I make them do more time on their work, or should I talk to the teacher about reducing the workload?
Okay, so if your child is taking more time to complete the work, ask them, are they understanding? I think that's the biggest part, because a lot of times when kids don't thoroughly understand the content, then they start to either rush or they may take a long time. And so sometimes teachers have done one-on-ones with students. I did that. I did small groups of 2 virtually, or maybe a group of just one-on-one with them. And then it may just take that to get them over that hump if they're not comprehending what's going on. And so I would first find out what is the reason why they're taking so long. And then the second thing I would do is, if it's that they don't understand, if it's not something that you think that you could teach them, then reach out to the teacher and say, hey, Johnny doesn't understand the concept of dividing fractions. Is there any way that we could set up a one-on-one through Canvas or through Zoom where you could help him clarify what he's not understanding? I promise you, if you reach out to teachers, especially during this time, we want kids to complete the assignments. And if they don't understand, then we want to be able to help them. So the biggest thing is just communication and asking. And then if it is, a disconnect, then you may ask the teacher, is there any way he could complete 5 questions today, or she can complete the other 5 tomorrow? What can we do to work together to make sure that my child is grasping this concept? I'm not asking you to lessen the load, but maybe can they have extended time to turn in the assignment maybe?
That was a great tip. So it's all about a partnership between
Yes.
the partnership is still there between the parent and the teacher and the child, all working together.
Yes.
So they have what they need.
And this, honestly, this is when we need it the most.
Absolutely.
And my hope is that this will continue, the partnerships that have been created, and it won't stop when kids go back to school face to face 100%. The same way that you've communicated with your child's teacher during this time is the same way that you need to continue to communicate with them. And I know it's been hard for you at home. I know it because it was hard for us. And my husband he left education a few years ago, and I'm still in education, and it's still hard for us to get things done. So I can only imagine for the parents who are not within the education system and don't really know what's going on until it's on the news or posted on a website. So the biggest thing is just making sure that once school does open back up, go sit in the classroom, go observe, go get to know things, on a deeper level if you have that time, because one, it creates a deeper bond between you and the teacher, but then it also lets your child know, like, hey, my parents are really concerned about my education. They want to make sure that I'm getting the best education. And so that's going to make me want to work harder, because I see the thoughts and I see, how much my parents are investing. So that's going to make our children want to work harder as well. Next slide, please. Next is school transitions. There are a lot of school transitions taking place right now, every single school year. It may be because of relocation. Relocation, you had to move from one side of Guilford County to another side of Guilford County, or you may even have moved states. So relocation is a big one. Elementary school to middle school. Now that's big, because you're going from elementary school is more so, you're helping kids, you're there with them, they have the direct, one-on-one and small group instruction. And then when they get to middle school, it looks different, because you look at students like, okay, you're in middle school, you're in 6th grade. However, we want to make you more independent. What does that look like? You go from sitting in a circle in 5th grade, reading a story aloud, to now being in middle school, 6th grade, and it's only been a couple months, and your teacher expects for you to read a whole novel by yourself and answer questions. So this whole school transition thing is something that we have to think about as parents, as educators, as community leaders, because now it's going to affect how our kids are performing, because they have different expectations set for them. The expectation is always high, but now that I'm in middle school, the expectation looks different. So how do we work with our kids in order to help them understand what their expectation is and how to reach that expectation and hopefully exceed that expectation? Now, the middle school to high school, that's completely different too, because in middle school, I taught middle school for about 9 years. Middle school, you're still walk to certain classes, you go to lunch with your teacher, and then you get to ninth grade and you have this whole era of freedom. No one's walking you to class. No one's telling you where to go, how to get there, or those types of things, unless you stop and ask someone. So that is a different type of transition that we need to talk with our kids about. What does it look like? Go back to that. How are you feeling about transitioning from middle school to high school? Are you afraid? We just had this conversation with our daughter about 2 weekends ago now, I think, my husband and I, because she's going from elementary to middle school. So how are you feeling, especially now that you're not going straight into your middle school? It's going to look a little different. How are you feeling? What can we do to help you so that you feel prepared? All these are things that some kids don't get at home. So as teachers, as community leaders, as partners together, we have to come together and ask these questions so that kids can feel they have a safe place where they can express what's going on. School transition should be indicative of communication between home and school. Goes back to what I've been saying the whole time. That communication part is so key. If you have questions, ask them. This is something that someone asked me a couple weeks ago. Their child is also going from elementary to middle school. They was like, how do I know that their information has been transferred? Such as their CUME folder, which has our names, our addresses, phone numbers, hadn't gotten any information. So how can I check on that? Call the school. Say, hey, I have a rising sixth grader. I have a rising ninth grader. I just want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date information for us. If you know that your address has changed or your phone number, email address, any of those have changed over the summer, please call your child's school and update that information, because that's how they're going to be communicating with you the majority of the time. So if they don't have the correct information for you as a parent or guardian, then you can't get upset with them because you have to provide that with them. So anytime something changes for you, please update the school with that information so that you can stay in the loop with phone trees, with text messages if they're sent out, with emails. And it's great because most schools send out, they do the phone call, the Connect Ed, and then immediately after that, they'll send out the email with it listed out in English and Spanish, what the message was. So that's really good. So you'll get it one way or the other, but it's just imperative that they have that updated contact information. Next slide, please. Now, next is setting goals. We should set goals in everything that we do in life. There should be a goal set so that we have something to work towards. And once we reach that goal or attain it, then we set another goal. They're usually small chunks. You may have a big goal, but then you break it down into small chunks. Now, when you do that, your goal should be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Now, you may be asking me, how does that relate to what we're going through right now? Because even though your kids are at home, they should still be setting goals, because at school they set goals. They may set goals for what they want to make on their spelling test if they're in elementary school. There are goals set once they get to third grade and they start taking the EOGs. They set goals based upon the previous data about what they want to score on those standardized tests. So helping your child set goals during this time is very important. Next slide, please. Now, I have a couple examples that I want to go through with you. Now, when we set goals for academics, we're going to break it down and look at what it should look like. The first thing, it should be specific. Set real numbers with real deadlines. So I will read 200 minutes per school week. On average, every child should be reading 30 minutes a day. That is what most counties require, and they want done in order to see that growth, and not just reading comprehension, but also reading fluency. When your kids read for 30 minutes a day at least, they're being introduced to new vocabulary words. If they don't know the words, it's always important to have a dictionary in the house, because you can find out some really good information and what your kid really knows by making them use a dictionary and not just typing it into a computer. That's when they use a dictionary, like the one we use, the thick one, they're looking at ABC order. You're going to be able to understand if they know what letter comes before this. Yes, I know my ABCs, but when I'm given this big dictionary, do I know where to look? Webster says it should be here. When I just click on the computer, it goes pulls straight up. But it helps them develop skills that they may need in the future. Because honestly, when I was in college, we still had the big wooden thing where you could pull out and find where the book was by hand. And I think that's just a very good skill for kids to have, is to know how to look up a book or a magazine, without using technology. Because what if technology is down one day? What if there's no internet access? Well, I can always go look in the dictionary to be able to find out what a word means, and I know how to use it. The next thing is measurable. Make sure the goal can be tracked. You can track the number of minutes read per day. So our original goal, I will read 200 minutes per school week, checks out. Attainable. Work towards a goal that is challenging but possible to attain. So if you're challenged to read 30 minutes a day from your teacher, then why not push yourself to read an extra 10 minutes a day? So that would mean if you want to read 200 minutes a week, then you would have to read 40 minutes a day. So that's only adding 10 minutes of what is required of you. Is it realistic? Be honest with yourself. You know what you are capable of. So you ask yourself, or you ask your child, do I have 40 minutes to set aside daily to read? Because a lot of times, if we're in normal times, I'll say, then we may have soccer practice, we may have basketball practice, we may have small groups to attend. There are different things that you have going on outside of the school realm. So do you have that 40 minutes to set aside daily to read? Is a logical question or realistic question that you should ask yourself. And then last is timely. Set a deadline. What is the deadline? So in our original goal, the deadline is at the end of each week. And now this can be evaluated. You can make a chart for your child depending upon what grade they're in. You could put a sticker under each date. Monday, you read 30 minutes, you get a sticker. 40 minutes, you get your sticker. Tuesday, you get your sticker. And you may want to even chart the minutes for this particular goal, if this is the one that you're looking at, so that if they don't read that 40 minutes a day, they'll know what they need to do, on Wednesday to stay on track to reach that 200 minutes at the end of the week. Now, setting goals should not just include academic skills, but also behavior and everyday life skills. That is something that is so important. Don't just look at it as I'm only setting goals for academics, but what other goals can my child set? Next slide, please.
Erika, we do have a question
Okay.
that came in. So we know that a lot of our children, our families may have, really taken some time this summer to really just enjoy one another, even during COVID-19 pandemic. So may have some unstructured schedules right now. So now our families are now trying to get back into the groove of school mode, work mode, all at the same time. What do you suggest for families that are, just in that place of needing to get back into a structure of school, and how can we help the kids get back prepared through reading and sticking with the goals and making sure that they're ready for the school year?
Okay. I'm going to take the part where you said helping them with reading and things like that. Honestly, they should have been reading the whole summer. They should have never stopped the reading the 30 minutes a day, because if they do, there's research out there that shows if kids, the last day of school, and they never pick up a book over the summer, then they could lose 2 reading levels just over the summer from June until August, 2 reading levels. That is a lot if they don't read anything. I mean, reading could be a comic book, the newspaper, a magazine. It doesn't necessarily have to be a novel, but as long as they are working the brain and building those synapses with new vocabulary words and asking and wanting to know more knowledge, That is just important. So just saying that up front is they should have never stopped reading. They should have still been reading their 30 minutes a day. Even if they read a book, on their tablet, you may say, hey, it's summertime, I'm gonna let them read, articles and things like that's fine. And I think a big one is gaming these days. If kids want to read gaming books and about codes and how to break codes on video games, let them do it. They're still reading, they're still gaining more knowledge. So during the summer, you can be a little bit more flexible with what they're reading, but just make sure that they are reading. And so getting back on that schedule, it can be hard, speaking, from experience, it can be hard, but you have to let them know, just like getting them on the schedule in March to look like what it would look like for the virtual learning. We're going back to school the same way we ended school. So bedtime may be a little later than 8:30, if they were getting up going to school, but go on and set that structure for what it looks like for you. Like, okay, let's say they're going to go to bed at 9:30. Okay, they go to bed at 9:30 if they're younger, elementary age, and they may not wake up until 8 o'clock in the morning. Once they wake up in the morning, what is it going to look like? Are you going to sit down immediately and start on your schoolwork? Are you going to have breakfast first? Are you're not going to start work until 10 o'clock? And it may look different from day to day, because speaking from experience, some days our kids started at 8:30 in the morning when they woke up. Some mornings they didn't wake up until 10 o'clock. We did not wake them up and say, okay, it's 8:30, get up and let's start working. If they slept in, we let them sleep in. And so that is one of the big things, is finding out what works out for you and your family. And it may not be the same every single day, but it goes back to just the structure that works for your family. So your neighbor may be doing something completely different than what you're doing, but as long as it's working and you set those goals and you see that your children are attaining those goals and they're reaching those goals, then don't say, well, I need to do it this way or I need to change it, because if it's not broke, then don't try to fix it. But if you do see that it's kind of a struggle and we're not getting things done the way we need to, we're working on work too long, or those types of things, and that's when you need to go and reevaluate what you have in place, so that you can create a structure that is conducive for that learning.
Those are great tips. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next slide, please. All right, so this is a behavior goal that we're going to look at setting, behavior and life goal. So once again, specific. When I become frustrated doing work, I would take 15-minute brain breaks to gather my thoughts. And I said brain breaks earlier. What is a brain break? In class, it may look like, I've seen some great videos of examples of brain breaks. The teacher will stop maybe mid-sentence and turn on a song, and the kids will get up and dance for like a minute or 30 seconds or something like that. Because you can tell when your child is zoning out or when students are zoning out and you're not getting them. It goes back to the attention span that they have. So just do something to say, hey, you're getting up, you're moving, kinesthetic, and then they'll sit back down and you'll be amazed at how their attention has come back to what you are looking at or what you're learning. So when I become frustrated doing work, I'm going to take 15-minute brain breaks. Now that 15 minutes, it does not have to be 15 minutes. It may be 10 minutes. It may be 5 minutes. That's just an example. You have to look at your child and know what they need so that this goal could be set if it's something that you look at doing. Now, next is measurable. A student and parent knows when frustration sets in, like I said, but many times you don't have a plan to deal with it. It's, oh, I'm frustrated, I'm going to walk away from this, and I'm not going to come back to it in some cases, or if I come back to it, I haven't done anything to really get my mind working or that I like to do. It could be that they draw for that 10 or 15 minutes. Sometimes drawing stimulates the brains and the neurons, and they may come back and get it. So what is it that you have set in place to help them deal with that frustration? Next is attainable. The student can set a 15-minute timer on an electronic device such as a tablet, phone, computer, on the stove, whatever you may have, a smartwatch. And then once the timer goes off, they know, hey, it's back to work. And then you may come over and check on them, say, hey, how are you doing? Is there something I can do to help you so that you can understand it better? But that 15-minute timer has been set. They take that dedicated time to do something that's going to stimulate them, maybe still educationally, but it may be something that can just take them out of that setting. It depends on the child to what that 15-minute period may look like. Now, realistic. The student and parents can set the time limit for the brain break. Some kids don't need 15 minutes. That would be too much time for them to get sidetracked, and then they won't get back to the goal or the task that you have set before them. So make sure that the time limit that you're setting, especially for this specific goal, fits your child and what their attention span is. And then the last is timely. This goal's timeline is contingent upon what parents and students decide and can be evaluated depending upon how much time is needed for brain breaks and the frequency of brain breaks taken. So it may be you need a 5-minute brain break, but you get 2 5-minute brain breaks during an assignment. So if it takes you 45 minutes to do the assignment, on average, then you get to take 2 5-minute breaks, which goes up to your 10 minutes total during that assignment. Were there any questions?
Yes, we do have a question, and this is a really good one. You know, a lot of parents at this time, especially since when the kids went home, around March or so, during that time, a lot of parents also were at home as well. So we heard from a lot of parents that it was hard to balance between making sure that they're working and then at the same time trying to keep the kids engaged and making sure they're doing that activity. So from your opinion as a teacher, what suggestions would you have for parents that are still in that mode, especially parents that are still working remotely, in how they're going to be able to balance their work and the live remote instruction? So that would be one question. Then second, just I guess us acknowledging that we do recognize that a lot of parents are still in that struggle. A lot of parents are, trying to figure out what to do about childcare, and sending the school back. So we do want to say today, we do acknowledge that a lot of parents are in a hard spot of what they're going to do with their children. So what would you suggest for particularly parents that are still working remotely and how they're going to be able to balance their work and making sure their children are staying on track remotely with their instruction?
I would have to say, I actually have a client who has her workspace set up right beside her daughter's workspace, and that works for them. I would probably say that wouldn't work for me, but that works for them because she's right there. If she has a question, she can answer. It's no getting up, moving back and forth. But I think the biggest thing is if you work, let's say you work a typical 9 to 5, then you need to set up times when your child can complete the assignments if they don't have live classes. So let's say that the assignments are just posted to start out with, then they may get up at 7:30 in the morning, like a typical school day, and work from 7:30 to 8:30 before you start work. And then you may have some type of filler assignments for them that they can work on while you're working. And when you take your lunch break, you may go back and look at what they've completed, or you may have them move on to another assignment depending upon how long your lunch break is and let them get that done. Because if you're getting off at 5 o'clock, that's late in the evening for them to be starting work, but it has to be around your schedule if at all possible so that you can assist them. So working around your work schedule, if your child is going to need assistance, is important. Don't expect them to be able to start out doing it by themselves. They're going to need that help. So if it means that they've got to get up at 7 or 7:30 before you go to work or clock in at home, then you guys make that commitment to get up at that time so that you can get those assignments completed, or as many of them as possible, so that when you get off, you don't have as many to do. Or it may be, in reverse, you may want to do it when you get off. It just depends on, I think personally, what your occupation is, how demanding it is, while you're working from home, because you may have that flexibility where you're not on conference calls all day, or, having to type, or answer phone calls or whatever it may be, where you can help them throughout the day. But if not, you definitely need to set that time to have that work completed. And I think it's important, if you do have to do that, that you let the teacher know. Like, hey, my child won't be completing assignments until after 5 o'clock. Is that okay? And even ask, is that okay? Because sometimes it may need to be turned in before then. But a lot of times, if we know up front then, we can work with you and be flexible. That's the biggest thing during this time, is being flexible. So communication, communication, communication. Communicate what it looks like for you and your family so that the teacher does know. If they're having live classes and your child is not able to get on because you're not there to assist them, then let the teacher know, so that if it's recorded, you can always go back and look at it. There are always ways to get around things that look like a roadblock. And that is the biggest thing that I want you to know. You may be like, well, how am I going to help my child during this time? Talk to the teachers, find out what they're doing. Find out if they say, well, I wasn't going to record my class, but you're like the second parent who said something to me about this. Well, then it's like, okay, all you have to do to record something is press a button and then post it. So that's something, sometimes people don't think about these things because they're not experiencing it per se. But when you come to them and you say, this is my situation, how can we work together so that my child and your student can be as successful as possible, then we'll brainstorm together and come up with ways so that this can take place.
So the parent involvement and the advocacy for your child is still crucially important, even
Yes.
during the virtual time. And we hope our parents will take that to heart, to still advocate for your child. And we know it might be a little rocky at first, but we're going to get through it together.
Oh yes, don't stop. That's the key. Always come with respect. I will say that. Make sure you're respectful with how you ask things and how you address certain situations, because the only person that you can control at the end of the day, and the only reactions you can control, are yours. And it's a lot easier when you come in and you are pleasant, versus maybe being demonstrative because it's something that you didn't understand or something that was misunderstood. And I know it's hard sometimes, I get it, but if you come in wanting to get to the bottom and having solutions to the problem instead of just bringing the problem, already have some possible solutions. Don't say you're going to do this, but have you ever thought about posting the live classes that you have during the day so that there's access to it? Even if a kid was on it, that may want to look at it later. So just ask these questions instead of saying, this is what you're going to do, or this is what I need done. How can we work together to get what you need done? And always bringing solutions to the table is like a step ahead, because we know we kind of have a ground to start on before we even get, into the depths of it. All right, next slide, please. All right, so the last thing that I wanted to talk about was just some resources that are out there for our students. Now, some are free and some are paid, and you can go and do deeper research on some of them. I'll give you a little bit of information on them, but we'll start on the free side. So a lot of kids, especially elementary age kids, love science and social studies. So the National Geographic Kids is a great free website where you can go. They have lessons where they can go through each lesson. Is interactive. They can answer questions based upon it. They get immediate feedback. So that is a great free website if you're looking for science activities for your child, or they just have questions and they want to know more about a topic. Fun Brain is for preschool to 8th grade. It's great. It has reading, math, science, and social studies. You find the grade level that your child is in and the topic, and then you just go from there and let them complete the assignments. Brain Pop is really good. It's usually like a cool video that comes first, and then there are questions that go along with whatever the topic is. Next is Khan Academy. Khan Academy ranges from usually middle school through high school. It addresses some of those harder subjects that parents may have questions about, and you haven't done it in 10 plus years, and you remember how you did it, but as parents are calling it the new math, it's just a little confusing to you. So you can always look at Khan Academy. It has videos, questions, lessons, immediate feedback. Once again, that's always a plus. Now, Quizlet is something that's typically used more in high school, but you can type in a subject that you may be learning. Let's say you're learning about the Harlem Renaissance. You can type in Harlem Renaissance in Quizlet. It'll give you questions and answers based upon what you should know. A lot of these are teacher created, And based upon what you should know, it's a great way to study is using Quizlet. And last is Cool Math. It just seems like all kids love Cool Math. It's just math games where it may have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, but there's different ways of them showing that they have mastered a skill or concept. And so that is always a good website for them to go to, just to kind of, maybe during a brain break, you could let them go to Cool Math, or if you're working from home and you need something for them to do, Cool Math is a good way. Now moving on to the paid side, a lot of these are resources that I've used in my classroom or within Dynamic Instruction and Consulting. One of my favorites is education.com. It's preschool to 5th grade, and it's $15.99 a month. That is deducted every month, whatever way you sign up for it to be taken out of your account. Now with education.com, you create your child's account, and then from there you can assign different standards for them to complete. It is aligned with the North Carolina Standard Course of Study, Common Core, and you can pick assignments for them to complete. And then you can set a due date for it. When they go in, it'll pop up and it'll say, you need to complete, adding fractions with unlike denominators, and then they'll click on it, and before they can even go into anything else, they have to complete that assignment. So education.com is really good. It has live videos, interactive games for them, and these games are actually Common Core aligned. I really like them because it goes with the standard, and it's not they're not going to be able to sit on it for hours doing it, because once they've mastered it, it moves them on to the next thing. It's kind of like a trail that they are following to get to the next item that they have to complete. Next is abcmouse.com. It's for your elementary age kids, ages 2 to 7, and it's $9.95 a month. Once again, abc.com, once you put your child in there, they can create little figures that look like them, and then it moves on the same trail. It's a pre-test that they have to take, and then it puts them on track for them to master what it is that they need to know so that they can go to the next level. Last is IXL Learning. It's K through 12th grade, which is great because anybody, that's going through this pandemic right now, they can put their child up there, and it's $9.95 a month. It is Common Core standard aligned as well. Once you click on your child's grade level, the actual standards will appear. So your teacher is telling you what standard you're working on, and then you can just go to IXL, click on it, and go to that exact same standard if your child needs more practice or more help. Last slide, please. Are there any questions first?
We don't see any questions on our end.
Okay, all right, last slide. This is my contact information. Once again, Mrs. Erika Dye. You can reach me at 336-850-0449 or dynamicinstruction@gmail.com. I am so appreciative for this time that we've had together to share some information to hopefully put you at ease about transitioning from summer mode to school mode. If you have any more questions that you can think of, please feel free to reach out to me so that if I can't answer it, I can get you in contact with the correct people who can.
All right. Thank you so much, Erika. This was very good information, and I know that everybody who heard this is good. And I mean, it is. We're entering a new world, and it's for folks who don't have that education experience. It's not exactly homeschooling. It's making sure your kid gets school at home. And so very much appreciate you taking your time to be here. Thank you for your contact info. So if folks have questions, and they can get in touch with you. And thank you all for your partnership with us. We appreciate this and look forward to more events like this. And so with that, if there are no more questions, then I'm going to go ahead and end us here, and I'll let you folks get on to your day. Thank you so much. And again, if you have questions, you can contact Erika. And if you have questions about anything that Partnership for Children or Healthy Relationship Initiative does, or YWCA, please reach out to one of us, and we'd love to connect with you. And again, thank you ladies so much. And you guys have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.